Okay friends, to get started on this job, one of the first things we have to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. After that, we're going to remove all of our lug nuts and the wheel. Okay friends, now that the wheel's off of there, we have a nice clear view of our brakes. The next thing that we want to do is push in our caliper piston. That's going to go right inside this area here. To do that, I'm just going to use a pry bar, carefully get in between this area up against the rotor, and I'll gently pry. You're going to see this kind of come towards me. Just make sure that piston's pushed in as far as we can. That feels good. The next thing we want to do is remove our two caliper sliders. For these, I'm going to use a 14mm socket. The first one I'm going to pretty much just loosen up, but I'm going to leave it in there a little bit, and then I'll fully remove the second one. Okay, that's nice and loose. Go ahead and grab onto those slider pins. Now when you look at these, you're going to see that one of them has a rubber boot on it. The other one does not. Remember which one the rubber boot goes in. The lower one. Set these aside. Let's go ahead and remove that caliper and inspect it real quick. You want to make sure the boot is still in good condition and it's not leaking in any way. If it's leaking, you have to replace it. I'm just going to set this aside, making sure that I put no pressure on my flex hose. Then we can remove our brake pads. There's one. Set these aside for recycling. Next, we're going to remove our two caliper bracket bolts using an 18mm socket. Let's get this first one out of here. We'll leave it in just a couple threads. There we are. Start that in there so this can't fall off. Remove the second one. Remove your bracket, set it aside. Remove your rotor. Okay, now that we have the rotor off, the next thing I want to do is clean up the mating surface of the wheel bearing where our brand new rotor is going to sit. I'll hit it with some parts cleaner and then I'll hit it with a wire brush. Once you have it clean, let's apply some copper never sees to the mating area here. Now it's time to install our brand new rotor. Slide it right on there. Just going to take one of these lug nuts, put it on there so the rotor can't move around on me. Now let's start cleaning up our caliper bracket. Now at the bench, we can start stripping this down. Remove your caliper bracket tins. We'll go ahead and recycle those. After that, we're going to remove the slider boots. Just go ahead and squeeze on it and carefully try to remove it from the bracket itself. Once you have it out of there, you want to kind of give it a couple squeezes and move it around. Inspect it. Make sure it's nice and pliable still, soft, and it's not broken or torn in any way. This looks great. We'll do the same for the other one. Set that aside. Now we can start cleaning this up. What we want to do is clean up this area right here where the tins are going to ride. You're going to have this corner, this one, and then the same on the other side of the bracket. Now to do this, you can either use a nice brush, just try to get it in there. That might take a little while, or you can try to use one of these sanding discs. Just be careful not to take up too much material from the bracket itself. I'm going to go ahead and spin this because I'm a righty. Once you have all four corners cleaned up, the next thing that we want to do is clean up these ports where the caliper sliders are going to be. I'm going to have a nice collection receptacle. Just go ahead and spray this in here. And then I always like to use a bore brush to clean out as much of the debris as possible. Now we want to let these completely dry, but we'll continue on by applying some caliper grease to each of these four corners and then applying our brand new tins. Now for this grease, you only want to apply a thin amount. This is essentially just to help keep moisture out of the area so rust doesn't build up. Once you have it lubricated, go ahead and take one of your tins. We'll just go ahead and slide it right on here. Make sure it's locked in so it can't slide around, and then do the same to the other side. Now the next thing that I always like to do is go ahead and clean out these caliper boots here. This is going to be easiest just using a rag. You kind of roll it up, slide it through the center there, and just try to get out any of the grease or debris that might be inside. A little twist here. See if I can slide it through. There we are. Now once I have it through, I just spread out that boot, and then I'm just going to kind of roll it around a little bit. Nasty. Do the same to the other one. All right, now we can move along to applying some of that caliper grease. We're just going to try to get a little bit of a coating inside here, especially along the lip where that boot's going to ride. It's going to be very important to help keep moisture out of there. Let's do the same to both, and then we can put in our caliper slider boots. Now for this right here, I'll just go ahead and turn it so you can kind of see what's going on. I'm just going to start one side in and then press the other side in. Once they're both in there, go ahead and give it a little twist. It's going to help work in some of that grease for you. Do the same to the other side. Now, before we go ahead and start putting that bracket on, let's make sure we clean everything up. You have your caliper sliders here. You want to make sure the entire shaft area is nice and clean and free of any debris. And then, of course, we're going to make sure that the threading area of our mounting bolts is clean as well. Once you have everything clean, let's just apply a little bit of red thread locker around each of these bolts. All right, once you have all that done, let's go ahead and take those bolts. We're going to start both of these in here. We'll bottom them out. Once they're both bottomed out, we'll torque them to 80 foot-pounds. So now we're going to get ready to put our pads on there, but before you can put the pads on, you want to make sure you put one of these wear indicators on your inner pad. So what you want to do is just essentially kind of put that inner pad towards where it's going to be. We want to make sure that the wear indicator is going to be facing down on the bottom area here. I'll just take this, I'm going to slide it right onto that lower corner, and you should kind of hear it click in a little bit. There we are. Let's go ahead and take these pads and insert them into the bracket. We've got our inner pad with the wear indicator we just installed. Slide it right on there. Make sure it slides around. If it feels like it's stiff in the bracket, you probably need to clean up the bracket a little better. Now it's going to be time to start cleaning up our caliper itself. On ours in particular, we have a lot of rust buildup. I want to try to get it all off of there so it can't flake off and get stuck in my brakes. Once you have it cleaned up, let's use some more of that caliper grease. We're going to go right along the piston area here, essentially just on the metal aspect of it, and then on the backside of each of these ears. This is just going to go up against the pads, and what it's going to do is it's going to help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. Let's make sure this is pushed all the way in. Now we can take that caliper, we're just going to carefully slide it right over the pads, making sure that we don't damage our caliper slider boots here. Put that in there. Now we can grab both of our caliper sliders. Let's take some lube and put a nice coating on both of these here. When we insert these, we want to make sure that we put the one with the rubber bushing on the bottom, same as when we removed it originally. Got our caliper lined up. Slide that right in there. This one. Okay. Now we can bottom both of these out, and then we'll torque them. When we torque them, we're going to torque them to 32 foot-pounds. Now we can get this lug nut off of here and get our wheel installed. Let's get our wheel up on here. Start on all of your lug nuts, then we'll bottom them out. Once they're bottomed out, we'll get the wheel on the ground, and then we'll torque them all to 100 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay friends, we got the driver's side brakes together. What's left to do now? You're going to do the same exact thing on the passenger side. After that, go ahead and pump up your brake pedal so it's nice and firm. Get underneath your hood, double check your master cylinder. You want to make sure the brake fluid's full, shut the hood, and then take it for a road test.